is going on, everybody? This is going to be the review of the Arrma Granite 4x4 Mega. This truck is available pretty much anywhere that sells Arrma for around $230. It does come brushed only, but if you've been following my channel, you do know that you can upgrade this thing to brushless at your own risk though. This is going to be a pretty quick video because there's not a whole lot to go over here. It is a small truck, it's pretty fun, and I've had a relatively okay experience with it, so let's dive into it. Alright, first thing first, let's pop the cap off and talk about it a little bit. So I have not reinforced this body at all, as you can see. And as far as just a little bit of scuffs on the sticker or paint, whatever it is, this body just has a few scratches, has held up nice, taken several pretty decent hits, and is still perfectly good body, no cracks, nothing like that. I really like how they tether these body clips. That is very nice. It is very nice to see companies go the extra mile and do that, because people know when you're out on the trail or out bashing in the dirt and grass and everything, if you pop a body clip off and end up dropping it or whatever, it is basically gone for good, and you have to go get a new one, or you know, if you have spares. But other than that, like I said, body's been excellent. I do like the look of it. I think the design, Arrma's just killing it with their designs. I do have to say that. Alright, so coming to the truck, I didn't clean it up very well, but I did give it kind of the once over. So we'll just kind of go over it real quick, talk about it, and then I'll give you my thoughts and let you know if I'd recommend it or not. Alrighty, so basically this whole thing is plastic. The gears, the diffs, everything's plastic on this thing. In the front, you do have all plastic links. They are non-adjustable, but they do seem to be pretty durable. I haven't had any problems at all with any of the suspension components, the chassis, the body mounts, or anything like that. I haven't had a single problem. This thing took a bunch of hard nose landings. This front bumper has held up very, very well. Like I said, the shock towers and everything have held up well. I did find that the suspension setup out of the box is excellent. This thing has a very, very nice suspension setup just out of the box. I didn't change anything. I didn't change the oils. I didn't change the preloads, anything like that. Now they are all plastic, non-threaded bodied, so you will have to use preload clips if you do want to adjust ride height and whatnot like that. And they're basically stationary. You can't adjust them in or out on the shock towers or on the A-arms. So this thing came with the typical 12-turn brushed setup that was 2S LiPo compatible. I changed it out for a 3S brushless system, which we'll get into in a minute, but I got that from K.O.R.H. It is the 3650 4300 kV brushless setup with a 60 amp 2 or 3S capable ESC. Now it did come with a 5 kg steering servo. That servo did strip out relatively quickly, so I went ahead and put the 15 kg Arrma waterproof metal geared servo in here. In the rear, kind of the same as the front, it has typical H-arms with camber links up top, and it is not adjustable. Basically, it is what it is with this truck. If you like the setup out of the box, which I do, you'll be happy. If you don't, you probably won't be happy because you can't adjust anything. The tires, I found the tires to be very, very good, especially for ready to run tires. These do hook up very well at the bash spot that I bash at, and they're good on grass. They're pretty good on asphalt as well. This truck doesn't have a whole lot of power out of the box, but these tires definitely do hook up and they do well, and I think they look very, very awesome. Now, another thing I want to mention about this truck is the design. They designed this thing to be very, very, very easy to work on, and that is something they nailed on this truck. This truck, you can pull this entire truck apart just pulling out, you know, 5 or 6 screws and just basically pulling stuff out in the order that you're supposed to. I have taken out the rear diff, and my first time, the entire rear diff take apart and reassemble took me less than, I would say, 45 minutes. So this thing is very, very easy to work on. It can be kind of frustrating trying to pop everything loose. A lot of stuff is just slid into place and kind of holds there with other parts. So it can, you know, if you get a little bit of rocks and dirt in there and stuff, it does tend to kind of be a little bit difficult to wiggle that stuff out. But all in all, I had a good experience working on this truck. It's actually broken right now. I got the parts on the way. That is something I will go over in a second. But all around build quality, I think this thing gets a pretty decent. I would probably give it a 7 for build quality. I would have liked to see some metal in this thing. I would have liked to see metal outputs from the diffs and metal diffs. That would have just made this thing a much more solid, even solider base than it is right now. So my negatives about this truck, kind of went over the builds, so we'll do some pros and cons. So one of the pros I'm going to mention first is the look. I think this thing is a very cool looking, true 1/10 scale 4-wheel drive monster truck. I really do. I think this thing looks awesome. It's a good size too. Like I said, it's not one of those 8th scales that they call a 10 scale or anything like that. This is a true 1/10 scale 4-wheel drive monster truck, and it looks very, very, very good. One of the cons of it, I would say, is that nothing's adjustable. You know, people like to play around with stuff, especially this being geared towards beginners, I would say. You should give them a little bit of adjustability. Maybe not a whole lot, but you know, something to kind of break them in on doing adjustments on an RC if they are so inclined. You know, most people, if they don't want to mess around with RCs, they'll just keep it the way it is out of the box. But I do think they should have gone the extra mile and gave us at least a tiny bit of adjustability with this truck, because basically it is what it is with this truck. You can't really adjust anything on it. So another pro I'm going to say is the tires. Everybody knows that cheap ready to runs, which this is, it's sold for about $230. So that's pretty cheap, especially for a hobby grade RC. To come with tires this good on a vehicle that cheap is very, very nice, because most RTRs, as most people know, have throwaway tires that are almost unusable. Like, they just make the whole experience of driving the RC just not very fun because the tires are so bad. So for this thing to come with a good set of tires, I am happy. All right, so another negative is all the plastic. I would have liked to see some metal on this thing, at least the diffs and output drives. If that was all the metal, steel, whatever they put in this thing, I would be a much happier with this truck than I already am. So another positive is the design of this truck, how easy it is to work on. Once you pull this thing apart and put it back together, it's just like, you know, it's nothing. You take out a couple screws and you can pull this whole truck apart in about 10 minutes. So that is awesome. They really, really thought it out when they were designing this thing to make it easy on the hobbyist that is going to be working on this thing. Other than that, another another pro about this truck is the setup out of the box. As I said, a con is that nothing is adjustable, but a pro to that is that I don't think anything needs to be adjusted because it's set up very well for bashing out of the box, especially for a beginner. The suspension out of the box is very, very nice. The tires, very good. Everything, this isn't a track buggy or anything like that, so camber, toe in and toe out. If you like playing with that stuff, that's all good and fine, but I think this setup out of the box works very, very well. I would have just liked to see that adjustability if somebody wanted to tinker with it. Now, the biggest con about this thing is the plastic output drives. So the diffs are plastic, but from my experience, the diffs can hold up to a brushless system. I have a brushless system in here. It makes this truck about twice as powerful as it is out of the box. And the only problem I have had at all with this truck is the rear output drive for the rear diff. The little gear that connects to the drive shaft from the front to the rear keeps snapping off. I do know that this thing was never designed to be brushless, so that is definitely on me, but most everybody that gets this truck will want to convert it to brushless. So I really, really have to emphasize the fact that I really, really would have liked to seen steel diffs. That would have made this truck a 100% win. All right, so with all that being said, and for the sake of time, we'll move to my thoughts part of it. My thoughts on this truck is it is very, very good for a beginner. My wife is a beginner. She drove this thing. She did want more power out of it. I probably should have left it brushed for a little bit longer, give her a little more time to get used to it and everything, used to jumping, throttle control and all that stuff. But, she wanted a little bit more, so I was like, hey, I'll go ahead and throw the brushless system in it. Now, I didn't have one single breakage at all. She didn't have one single breakage at all with it brushed. When I put it on the brushless system, she was jumping off jumps, keeping it pinned on full throttle. The wheels were hitting and everything. We broke that rear output drive on the rear diff. I went ahead and I bought a whole new diff, put it in there. Like I said, it was very, very easy. Then she drove it again, and I've driven it twice since then. Once on 2S, which went flawlessly, no problems at all. And then I went ahead and stepped it up, put it on 3S, and I did a couple backflips. And on my last backflip, coming down when it hit, it broke that rear output drive again. Now, this truck was never designed to be brushless, let alone designed to withstand 3S power. So I cannot blame the truck for that. That is something that I'm going above and beyond what this thing was designed for. But if it did have steel diffs or like some kind of steel upgrade, like a metal or a steel upgrade to replace that, just that one output drive, I think that would be amazing. All in all, I'm going to go ahead and give this truck a win, a huge thumbs up, especially because I'm putting more power to this truck than it was ever designed to take. And I think if you keep this truck on 2S, you won't have too many problems unless you're really, really hammering down on the throttle when you're landing and stuff like that. If you keep this thing brushed, if you keep the stock brush system in it, I don't foresee any problems with this truck at all. You would really, really, really have to try to just break it. I mean, and I still think you would have to try like pretty hard to actually break something on this truck. So yes, this thing is going to get a dual thumbs up from me, and I do think this truck is perfect for beginners. There is stuff out there that would be considered better than this for a little bit more money, but I think this is a very good truck for the price. I think it's a very good value for dollar, and I think this truck is wonderful for beginners. All right, so that's going to be my review and thoughts on the Arrma Granite 4x4 1/10 scale four-wheel drive monster truck. Like I said, you can pick this up for about $230 plus tax anywhere that sells Arrma. Thank you for stopping by Killer Off-Road Hobbies. Thank you for watching this review. Please check out the description. There's a bunch of stuff down there. You can get t-shirts and stuff, help support the channel. You can also become a Patreon, and you get rewards for doing that, tickets for raffles and everything. And go ahead and hit that thumbs up if you liked it. Thumbs down if you didn't. Stay tuned. We got a lot more coming at you. All right, I'm Gary from Killer Off-Road Hobbies saying peace.